Christmas morning, I came down the stairs to silence, so loud it felt staged. No wrapping paper chaos. No coffee brewing. No scent of cinnamon rolls. Just the tick of the antique clock in the hallway and my own breath fogging up the kitchen window. Her car was gone. The SUV I paid for. I looked around. No coats missing, no suitcases, but a single folded note lay neatly on the dining room table, right next to the place I usually set her coffee. Gone with someone who actually loves me. Used your miles and your card. Take care of Mom. That was it. No signature. No apology. No explanation. The audacity was so surgical, I laughed. Out loud. A single, breathy laugh that sounded like it belonged to someone else. Then I poured myself a cup of yesterday's cold coffee, walked past the blinking Christmas lights she insisted I install every year, and headed to the guest room. Her mother was sitting up in bed, wearing the robe I gave her last Christmas. She looked confused, maybe guilty, maybe just tired. She left? She asked, voice frail. Apparently, I said. Took the miles. Left the mother-in-law. She blinked twice and said, well, at least she didn't take the dog. We don't have a dog. I made her a plate of breakfast. Quietly. Eggs, toast, fruit. She tried to thank me, but I waved it off. Eat while it's hot. Then I went down to my home office, opened the lower left drawer, and pulled out a thin, black folder labeled Contingency, Activation Required. I had hoped I'd never open it. But that's the thing about hope. It's just denial dressed up for church. Inside were documents I'd quietly gathered over the past 9 months. Screenshots, wire transfers, LinkedIn posts, travel stubs, spreadsheets. You don't live with someone for over a decade and not start to notice when the Bluetooth in their car pairs to someone else's phone before yours. Or when they suddenly become afraid of flying after years of spontaneous trips, unless it's with someone named Ryan, whose last name she always seemed to forget. Oh, and she really should have double-checked the admin rights on the travel booking site she used with my points. Or maybe not logged into it from our shared iPad. I watched their whole surprise getaway unfold like a vacation slideshow in real time. Bahamas. 5-star resort. Room with a private pool. That's the part where most guys snap. Flip a table. Call a lawyer. I just made a second cup of coffee. She thought she was clever. Thought she was walking away from a pushover. A man who spent years working, providing, staying loyal, being boring. But here's the thing. Boring men build quiet arsenals. We don't scream. We don't throw punches. We file, document, notarize. You know, while I'm here, since over 90% of the folks who hear stories like mine never subscribe, do me a favor. Hit that follow button. It costs you nothing, and it fuels the team behind these stories to keep digging deeper, writing sharper. Plus, what's better than watching someone get exactly what they deserve? Especially when it's delivered with ice-cold precision. Back upstairs, I could hear her mother shuffle to the bathroom and turn on the faucet. Meanwhile, I opened my email and scheduled one message to send in exactly 5 hours. It would go to a corporate compliance inbox at a company her real man helped manage. The subject line? Regarding employee Ryan T. and potential violations of travel reimbursement policy. Just a little Christmas gift. Underneath the folder, there was one more item, a USB drive labeled prenup addendum. She had signed it 5 years ago, during what she called her paranoid phase, after one of her coworkers got divorced and lost half his crypto. I remember her saying, "You'd never do that to me, but let's sign something, just in case." She forgot about it. I didn't. I encrypted it, printed it, and had it notarized and logged with my attorney. One of the clauses was pretty specific. It outlined the nullification of any claim to marital property in the event of intentional financial misuse or extramarital conduct leading to reputational harm. All I had to do was prove either. She'd handed me both. Now, I'm not a cruel man. I didn't change the locks. I didn't cancel her phone line. I didn't even drain the accounts yet. But I did make a list. And I do finish what I start. By noon, she had already posted 4 pictures. All palm trees and white sand and filtered sunsets. The kind of curated happiness that screams, "Look how free I am." One of them showed her in a swimsuit I bought, holding a neon cocktail that probably cost more than my weekly grocery bill. Ryan from marketing, had his arm draped around her waist like he owned the air she breathed. He kissed her cheek in the next one, captioned with, "Christmas miracle. Finally with someone who gets me." Another post just said, #real love, #new beginnings, #no more lies. No more lies. Sweetheart, you built a home on lies and then ran off with the damn roof. I didn't comment. Didn't even flinch. I right-clicked the post, downloaded the images, then pulled up a tab I hadn't opened in a long time. Levine and Hartson Investigations. It was the same agency I used back when a former business partner tried to embezzle from a licensing deal. Fast, discreet, and thorough. My kind of people. I attached the images to a message titled Surveillance Request, time-sensitive, with the note. Subject: my wife. Accompanied by Ryan, last name redacted. Location: the Baymont Azul Resort, Turks and Caicos. Please confirm confirmation of romantic conduct for documentation purposes. Already monitoring travel and financial anomalies. Will require timestamped footage if possible. Hit send. While I waited, I opened the shared legal folder on my desktop. It had 3 subfolders: prenup, trust, and contingency. I clicked into the prenup folder and uploaded the document she never cared to read. Addendum C. I remember the day she skimmed it. Sitting across from me at the breakfast bar, in a hurry, late for a strategy brunch. She signed it with the distracted energy of someone clicking accept all cookies on a website. I even joked, "You might want to read that." She rolled her eyes and said, "You think I'm going to run off and bankrupt you or something?" Funny, almost psychic. Addendum C was only 1 paragraph long, buried between standard legalese. It stated that any infidelity or deliberate financial deception would trigger an immediate dissolution clause, rendering the marriage financially severed from the moment the action was committed, not when it was discovered. Which meant every dollar she spent with him on that island, from my points, from our joint account, from her secret travel fund, would legally qualify as her own theft. She posted another photo later that day. Matching white robes. Room service on the terrace. His watch, clearly visible, resting on the nightstand. The caption: "When the universe aligns, red heart." More like "When the noose tightens." Her followers were eating it up. Heart emojis. Yas Queen comments. One of her friends wrote, "So happy you finally chose you." Oh, she did. She chose her ego. She chose to broadcast betrayal as if she were the underdog in a movie montage. And I let her. Because the louder she got, the more the timeline confirmed the clause. Every post was a breadcrumb trail of self-incrimination. I made myself lunch. Grilled cheese. Her favorite, ironically. Ate it in silence while reading over the updated report from my financial monitoring alerts. She had withdrawn $4,200 in the last 72 hours. Half went to the resort. The other half? Spa treatments, designer boutique charges, a diamond-studded phone case. Real practical. I marked each expense in red in the spreadsheet. There was something almost soothing about it. Like marking time. By late afternoon, my private investigator replied. They were already en route to the island. 2 agents. Cameras. Drones. Said they'd have high-resolution footage within 48 hours. They had also confirmed the resort's internal policy on guest privacy, easily bypassed when corporate fraud is in question. Turns out, Ryan had booked the room using his company's executive account. Probably thought it wouldn't raise flags during a holiday weekend. That's the difference between cheating and cheating smart. I added one more document to the shared folder before logging off for the day. A brief affidavit from my financial advisor, timestamped from a month ago, noting the unusual spending pattern in our joint accounts. My request for that document had been framed as a routine marital asset review, just in case she ever tried to go scorched earth. Irony, again. She lit the match herself. As the sky darkened outside, I heard her mother coughing in the hallway. I helped her back to bed, made some tea, and told her not to worry. They'll be back soon, I said. And they would. Oh yes, they would. But what they were walking into wasn't the warm home she left. It was a courtroom with central heating. Because this time, I wasn't the one left behind. I was the one drawing the map. The next morning, I did something I'd never done before. I called a number with the intent to ruin someone. No anger. No shouting. Just precision. I had found the compliance hotline buried in the footer of Ryan's company's website, small font, almost designed to be ignored. Ethics and misconduct reporting, anonymous or direct. A direct number. So I used it. The line rang 3 times before a clipped, professional female voice answered. Corporate ethics and compliance. This is Dana. I kept my tone level, even polite. Hi, my name is Thomas Whitmore. I believe one of your employees, Ryan Trevors, may have violated company travel and conduct policy. I'd like to report something sensitive. There was a pause. Then, I see. And may I ask how you're affiliated with Mr. Trevors? I'm not, I said. But my wife is. Another pause. Longer this time. I see. And what exactly are you alleging? I'm not alleging anything, I said. I'm sending you a folder. It contains geotagged images of your employee on a resort trip, the billing for which appears to have been processed through your corporate travel department. The room was booked under his executive account. He is accompanied by my wife, who has no business affiliation with your company. Not legally, anyway. Her voice was steadier now, but sharper. You said geotagged? Down to the poolside bar, I said. Also includes several timestamps, including one showing him using what appears to be a company-issued laptop, with your logo sticker still on the screen. She cleared her throat. Can you forward those files? Already did, I said. Check your inbox. Subject line, Code of Conduct Clarification, Ryan Trevors. I heard her clicking keys. Then a sharp inhale. I see them, she said. I'll let you decide if it aligns with your company's values. But just so we're clear, I'm not pressing charges. Yet. I just figured you'd want to know what kind of brand ambassador you've got flying first class on Christmas Day. Her tone changed. A mix of professionalism and something resembling dread. Thank you, Mr. Whitmore. We'd appreciate your diligence. We'll escalate this internally. Take your time, I said. He's on vacation. For now. I hung up and stared at the wall for a moment. The silence in the house had become something else. Not peaceful, not eerie, just surgical, like a vacuum before the blast. I walked into the kitchen and made coffee, my third that day. My hands didn't shake. My pulse didn't spike. I was past that. What I felt now wasn't adrenaline. It was the calm of a man who knew exactly where every piece on the board was and what move was coming next. In my inbox, the confirmation email came from their automated system. Thank you for your submission. Your concern has been logged and assigned. Reference number, ETH 92831. I forwarded the same email to my attorney under the subject line. Breadcrumb number 3. This wasn't revenge. Not yet. This was documentation. Foundation. All perfectly admissible. I wasn't playing dirty. I was playing with gloves and paperwork. Which is worse, really. Because dirty fades. Paper stays. At lunch, her mother asked if I'd heard from her. Nope, I said. She's probably thinking I'm helpless here, the old woman muttered. She left you here with a man she thought she was humiliating. I replied. Turns out, she left you with the only person in this house who gives a damn about your blood pressure meds. She chuckled. You know, she always thought she was the smart one. I smiled. She was. Just not in the way she imagined. I refreshed my inbox twice that evening. Nothing. No reply from Dana. No call from a company lawyer. But I wasn't worried. That's not how corporate moves. They don't slam doors. They review, confer, redact, then detonate. That night, I went into the attic and pulled out an old box labeled Personal Assets, untouched. Inside was the copy of the lease I'd co-signed for her boutique startup space, the one she proudly told everyone she funded herself. I highlighted my name, the clause about shared liability, and the subparagraph about proprietary branding conflict. Then I slid it into a new folder marked Leverage, Soft. If she thought the trip was her new beginning, she'd soon realize it was her professional obituary. And the best part? I wouldn't even have to write it. Corporate would. They always do. That night, after the dishes were cleaned and her mother had taken her usual half dose of blood pressure meds with a splash of chamomile tea, she shuffled slowly into the den where I sat. I had the fireplace running by then, not for the warmth, but for the illusion of comfort. The old woman lowered herself into the chair across from me with the deliberate grace of someone who'd lived through real winters and real betrayals. She watched the flames for a while before speaking. Did you know about them? Her voice wasn't curious, it was resigned. Like the question had been trapped in her throat for weeks and finally clawed its way out. I didn't flinch, just nodded once slow. For a while now. She gave a small, bitter laugh. She's always been drawn to drama. Ever since high school. Broke up a friend's engagement once, just to prove she could. That tracked. She picked at the edge of the wool blanket on her lap. But you didn't deserve this. I didn't reply. Not because I disagreed, but because there was no satisfaction in hearing it said aloud. Not anymore. She sighed. I tried to talk to her. About the way she treated you. Told her, that man feeds you, houses you, looks after me when you forget. But she just laughed. Said I was sentimental. She's not wrong, I said quietly. Sentiment is expensive. Her eyes narrowed slightly, like she was seeing me for the first time. You're different this week. Maybe I finally took a page from her book. Another silence. Then she reached into the pocket of her cardigan and pulled out something surprising. A small, folded notebook. The kind you'd find in the dollar bin at a pharmacy. She handed it to me like it weighed something. I wasn't snooping. I was just looking for a stamp. Found this in her desk. I think she thought I wouldn't understand what it meant. I opened it. Inside, a list. Handwritten. Dates, amounts, vague labels. Private transfer, Cayman account, $2,500. Q3 bonus, rerouted, $1,800. Speaker gig, cash, not reported. March flight, use joint miles, reimburse later, never did. Travel fund balance, $17,420 as of NOV. Neat, numbered, calculated. A little corner of me, the part that had spent years nodding politely while she vented about clients over wine, wanted to pretend it was for something else. A gift, a surprise trip, an escape plan that didn't include betrayal. But I'd stopped bargaining with delusion days ago. She told me she was putting money aside for our anniversary, her mother muttered. But she said that last year too, and the year before. I set the notebook down. She's been moving it in $500 increments for months. Thought it'd stay under my radar. But it didn't. I shook my head. I set alerts. She got cute, but not smart. Truth was, I'd noticed the fund a long time ago. Months. 1,000 here, 2,000 there. Categorized under miscellaneous, client reimbursements, vendor floats. I didn't react right away. I needed time to understand the pattern, to build the case. You don't drop a hammer until you're sure the nail's buried deep enough to hurt. But the irony? She kept the notebook, like a little trophy, pride in her secret savings, her escape hatch. I guess she never imagined I'd be sitting by the fireplace with her mother while she played tropical goddess in a resort spa. What are you going to do? Her mother asked softly. I glanced toward the darkened hallway, then back at her. Finish it. You mean divorce? I mean everything. She didn't ask further, just nodded and folded her hands like she was praying. Maybe for her daughter, maybe for herself. After she went to bed, I sat with that notebook in my lap for a long time, ran my fingers over the ink. Each line was a betrayal measured in dollars and hubris. She thought she was building freedom, but she was just funding evidence. I opened my laptop, created a new folder in the encrypted drive, funnel activity, dropped in a scan of every page, labeled it as Exhibit D, cross-referenced the dates with the expense log I'd kept. Every line had a mirror. Every dollar had a breadcrumb. The fire crackled softly. Somewhere upstairs, her mother coughed in her sleep. And in that moment, I stopped being the man she thought would beg. I became the man she should have feared. 2 days later, around 10:42 in the morning, my phone buzzed on the kitchen counter, just once. Unknown number. No voicemail. Just a subtle vibration, like someone knocking gently on the edge of something that was about to collapse. I let it ring a second time before picking up. Thomas Whitmore? The voice was steady, measured, not robotic, not friendly, just professional enough to make me stand up straighter. Yes. This is Alex Crawford. I'm the founder and managing director of Vanguard Motion, the company where Ryan Trevors is, or rather, was employed. Was. I said nothing. Let the weight of that word hang between us. I just saw the pictures, he continued. The ones you sent to compliance. I wanted to call you directly, out of respect. Out of respect. That was rich coming from the man whose employee had spent Christmas drinking mojitos on my tab and sticking his tongue down my wife's throat while the company footed the minibar charges. But I didn't interrupt. Not yet. We did a quiet sweep, Crawford said. Turns out, Ryan had a habit of misusing our travel budget. This wasn't the first strategic vacation. It's just the first time someone packaged it with geotags and a time-stamped expense report. Still, I said nothing. There was a pause on the line. One of those perfectly placed silences that lets the next line cut deeper. They're flying back now. Commercial. No more perks. I turned and glanced at the suitcase by the door. Hers. The one I'd unpacked after she left it half full, stuffed with clothes she didn't bother to take. Funny thing about people who romanticize escape. They always think they'll be able to come back. That the door will still be open. That the couch will still be theirs to cry on. Crawford kept going, voice like dry paper. Ryan's termination letter was delivered this morning. He's locked out of his company accounts, travel card, and client portals. We're conducting a formal audit of his reimbursements. If we find more discrepancies, he may face criminal charges. And my wife? I finally asked. Another pause. We haven't named her officially, but her name came up. She was listed as a co-organizer on the invoice for the venue they claimed was a business conference. You might want to check your accounts. Our finance department believes part of the event was paid for using your shared card. Already had. Already documented. Already forwarded to my attorney under Exhibit E, card misuse. She'll be back in town later tonight, Crawford said. I imagine they'll come to you first. She probably thinks Ryan just got written up, that she can cry her way through it. A cold chuckle caught in my throat. She won't be crying to me. I figured, he said. Still, consider this a courtesy call. From one quiet man to another. He didn't elaborate. He didn't need to. I hung up and stared at the ceiling for a moment. The ceiling fan spun lazily. Dust on one blade. Something so ordinary about it. But everything under that ceiling was different now. Reality had shifted. And they didn't know it yet. They thought they were landing into damage control. A couple tears, a few manipulative phone calls. Maybe a dinner table confession with her mother at the center for added drama. But this wasn't a reconciliation arc. This was the midpoint. The part of the story where the protagonist, me, stops waiting for justice and starts tightening the screws himself. I walked into the living room and opened the small drawer under the television. Inside, a box labeled Return Protocol. I took out the envelope marked Final Notice, for her eyes only, and placed it in the middle of the coffee table. It contained a printed version of the prenup addendum, the funnel notebook, photocopied and highlighted, a freeze frame from the resort drone footage showing her and Ryan holding hands by the pool, timestamp in the corner, a summary of her shared card charges from the last 2 months, and a single sticky note. You flew away on my dime. Now land with nothing. I sealed it. I didn't need to yell. I didn't need to rage. The company had already done the dirty work for me. The walls were closing in from the outside. I just had to make sure the door stayed shut. The day they were scheduled to land, I met my lawyer at his office just after sunrise. He's the kind of man who doesn't ask too many questions, just checks boxes and pours scotch that smells like old money and moral ambiguity. I handed him a USB drive and a thick file folder. Everything we discussed, I said. He raised an eyebrow. You sure you want to go full irrevocable? I nodded. She made the first move. I'm just finishing the sentence. Within the hour, we had the paperwork filed. All joint accounts, frozen. Not closed, just locked down tight. Any attempt to transfer funds would trigger an automated alert to both me and the bank's fraud department. I didn't want to drain the accounts in one move. That would have been too obvious, too satisfying. Instead, I left enough in each to make her think nothing had changed, until her card declined mid-latte. Next, the trust. He helped me move the house out of our names and into a living trust, one controlled exclusively. Pension too. All of it locked under a clause she'd never seen and couldn't contest without a signed waiver. One she'd never get again. I had my lawyer stamp it right in front of me, ink crisp and dry like a death certificate. On the drive home, I stopped by the hardware store and picked up a new smart lock hub. Swapped it in myself. Her phone? Blacklisted. Her laptop? Signed out. Her tablet? Logged out remotely. Every digital trace of her access wiped cleaner than her vacation selfies. By noon, I had the house to myself, digitally, legally, physically. And then I cleaned. Not out of spite or ritual, but because I didn't want a single excuse left on the table. I vacuumed the hallway, refolded the linens, even dusted the baseboards. When she walked back in, and I knew she would, I wanted everything to look exactly as she left it, except for one detail. In the center of the kitchen table, where she once laid out charcuterie boards and bridal magazines, I placed a sealed envelope. Thick, firm, unbending. Across the front, in my handwriting. Upon return, it wasn't taped shut, just folded with weight. A warning in its own posture. Inside were copies of everything she'd need to understand her new reality. No long letter. No emotional flourishes. Just the prenup clause she never remembered signing. The trust transfer documentation. An account summary showing $0 available in her travel fund. A screenshot of her failed access attempt to the smart lock, timestamped. And finally, a single line on company letterhead, forwarded from my contact at Crawford's firm. Termination effective immediately. Internal investigation pending. Do not return to any Vanguard Motion property. I slid it under the envelope flap, just enough to be seen when she opened it. Then I stepped back, looked around the house, and felt something unfamiliar. Calm. Not relief. Not victory. Just a stillness, like the moment before a storm breaks. Because now, for the first time in this entire farce, I wasn't reacting. I was dictating the pace. She would land. She would check her balance. Try to use her phone to unlock the front door. Fail. Check again. Call the bank. Call Ryan. Cry. Scream. Maybe try the back door. I sat down on the couch and waited. Her mother walked in from the hallway with her usual slow shuffle, saw the envelope on the table, and sighed. She's going to lose her mind, she murmured. She's going to lose more than that, I said. The old woman nodded once, not approving, not condemning, just understanding. Then she shuffled off to her room, clutching her mug. Outside, clouds were forming. The temperature dropped just a little. The quiet before the drop. I stood, adjusted my shirt cuffs, and walked into the study. I didn't need to be present for her performance. The house was ready. The papers were signed. The locks were changed. And the man she expected to plead? He'd been replaced by someone far more dangerous. A man with nothing left to lose, and everything already claimed. Around 6:30 that evening, I heard the tires crunch over the thin layer of ice on the driveway. That sound, the pause of a car stopping just a few feet too close to the garage, used to mean she was home. Now, it just meant the wolves thought they could come back to the den after burning it down. I didn't move. I stayed in the study, seated in the leather chair she always said looked too stern for a living room. A hardcover copy of The Prince rested on my lap. Fitting. I wasn't reading it, not really. Just letting the silence sharpen around me like a blade. Then came the first knock. Fast. Hesitant. She didn't use her key. That was gone. She rang the bell. Once. Twice. A pause. Then again, more aggressively. Outside, muffled voices filtered through the front door. Hers and Ryan's. She was trying to whisper yell. A tone I knew well. Desperate, but still convinced she could manipulate the outcome if she just used the right inflection. Maybe he's out, I heard Ryan mutter. No, he's here. His car's in the garage. That's his shadow in the window. Tom, open the door. Nothing. I turned a page I wasn't reading. From the upstairs window, her mother stood peering down, hand on the curtain. She's yelling, she said calmly, almost like she was commenting on a weather forecast. She's got that face. The one she makes when she thinks tears will fix it. I didn't look up. Let her try. The knocking escalated. A new rhythm. Fist pounding and doorbell punching in sync. A childish tantrum in stereo. Then her voice cracked through. Thomas, please. I can explain. Just let me inside. Please. Ah, there it was. The performance. The slow arc from indignation to desperation. I'd seen it before, just never directed at me. Ryan tried once too. His voice was thinner than I expected. Hey man. Look, I know things got a little, complicated. Can we just talk? I stood up, walked quietly to the side hallway, and watched them from the narrow window between the curtains. She was in leggings and an oversized hoodie, his, probably. Mascara smudged. Hair tied up like she hadn't planned to make an impression, only to crawl back into familiarity. Ryan looked worse. Disheveled. Pale. The kind of man who'd never been told no long enough to recognize when it finally stuck. I watched her check her phone again, probably trying the smart lock app. Blocked, she whispered. I returned to the study. The envelope I'd left for her on the table remained untouched. They hadn't gotten that far. The door locked tight. The cameras, recording everything. One mounted above the porch light. Another angled toward the driveway. Every word, every knock, every useless plea. Archived. My phone buzzed. Text from my attorney. They'll try to provoke a response. You owe them none. Let them perform. I turned on the fire in the study. A quiet hum of gas and soft blue flame. Warmth filled the room as her voice rose another octave. Mom, are you in there? Can you hear me? Tell him to let me in. Her mother didn't move. Just sipped her tea from the second-floor landing, leaned slightly, and said in a dry tone, You left me here like luggage. He didn't. That silenced her for a moment. Ryan tried again. Dude, this is ridiculous. She made a mistake, okay? But you're being. I closed the study door. Behind it, the noise faded to a dull throb. I sat back down, set the book aside, and opened my laptop. Checked the savings account. Untouched. Checked the trust folder. Confirmed transfer status. Finalized. Reviewed the compliance report from Crawford's firm. Internal probe officially launched. All moving forward without my needing to lift another finger. Outside, the yelling resumed. Inside, peace. She had always believed that drama wins. That if she cries hard enough, manipulates cleverly enough, guilt trips deeply enough, she'll break through. But the door stayed shut. The man inside wasn't the same one she'd left behind. He had read every lie, filed every receipt, signed every paper. Now, all he did was wait, detached, watching her panic like a stranger pounding at the wrong house. Because, in every way that mattered, it wasn't hers anymore. She must have pounded on that door for a full 30 minutes before the frost on her voice gave way to something raw. Panic, not performative anymore. And when neither I nor her mother responded, when the lights stayed warm but the lock stayed cold, I saw her out the window finally notice it. The envelope. Right there on the welcome mat. Sealed. Thick. Staring up at her like the beginning of a confession or a sentence. She bent down to grab it, fingers trembling more from confusion than cold. Ryan hovered behind her, still too proud to kneel, still convinced this was all some grand misunderstanding that could be solved with a bro handshake and a half-assed apology. He leaned over her shoulder. She pulled the envelope away. "No," she hissed, voice sharp enough to cut glass. "This is for me." That much, at least, she understood. She sat right there on the frozen porch, cross-legged like a teenager waiting for a ride that wasn't coming. Tore the flap open with too much force. Papers spilled into her lap. First page, the prenup addendum. Bolded. Signed. Initialed. Legal. You could see the moment it hit her. Her eyes scanned the paragraph, mouth moving slightly like she was trying to rewrite it in real time, looking for some loophole or typo. There was none. It read, "In the event of proven infidelity or financial misconduct, all claims to joint marital assets shall be nullified, effective retroactively from the date of the violation." Her lips parted. She reread it. Once. Twice. Then flipped to the next document. A formal notice of financial separation. Itemized. Every account, every asset, every transfer now moved or protected under the newly revised trust. Her name appeared only in one place. The section labeled former spouse, no further access. Her hands started to shake then. The kind of tremble that can't be faked, not even by someone who's made a career out of selective fragility. Ryan leaned over again. "What is it?" he asked. She said nothing. So he grabbed one of the papers. Read a line. Went pale. Then she got to the third page. The note. The only handwritten thing in the entire packet. "You spent Christmas with your real man. Now you can spend New Year building a real life, with nothing I earned." Just one sentence. Not a threat. Not an insult. A statement of fact. A mirror held up. She read it 3 times. Each time slower. And then it happened. The shift. Rage. Her whole body tensed like a puppet cut loose too fast. She stood abruptly, papers flying from her lap, fists clenched. Walked to the door and kicked it, hard. "You petty son of a..." "Open the door, Tom. You think this makes you noble? You think this is strength? This is cruelty. You left me no choice," she screamed. I didn't respond. She turned and stared at her mother's window. "You're seriously siding with him? After everything I did for you?" The old woman sipped her tea like a queen watching a peasant revolt. Ryan tried to pull her away. "Let's go," he said under his breath. "This is getting weird." "No," she snapped. "He can't do this. This isn't over." Ryan stepped back. His jaw was tight, eyes shifting like he was seeing a preview of a future he hadn't signed up for. "Actually," he muttered, "I think it is." That was the first crack. Not in her voice, but in her plan. She turned back to the envelope, grabbed the documents from the porch, shoved them into her tote like they were cursed. Then she noticed something else. The security camera above the porch. The little red light blinking. Recording. All of it. She froze. For the first time in the entire pathetic performance, she looked afraid. Afraid not of me, but of what came next. The implications. The audit. The possible lawsuit from Ryan's former employer. The record of every dollar misused. Every GPS-tagged photo. Because that's the thing about consequences, they don't arrive as thunder. They arrive as certified letters. Timestamped footage. A sealed envelope on a frozen porch. And when they do, the only thing left to scream at is your own reflection in the glass door. But the man inside, he doesn't come to the door. He already left it behind. The next morning, I made eggs. Scrambled. With pepper and smoked paprika, just how I like them. Her mother joined me at the table, quiet at first, then finally muttered. She didn't sleep. I heard her pacing the driveway until sunrise. I nodded. Good. Across town, in an overpriced condo rented under her independence budget. She was probably trying to reach her lawyer for the 3rd time. I imagined her pacing barefoot, phone on speaker, slapping down printouts of the trust documents, ranting about ambush and malicious intent, as if any of this wasn't her own reflection staring back. By 10 a.m., she got a call back. New Year's Day, 9:12 a.m. The phone rang only once before I picked up. Same number. Same clipped tone. "Alex Crawford, again. I figured I owed you a final update," he said. "For closure." I sat by the window, coffee in hand, watching snow fall gently onto the garden beds she once insisted we re-landscape to look more curated. Now they were blanketed in silence. "Go ahead," I said. "She tried to turn it on you," he said bluntly. "Filed a report yesterday. Said you were emotionally abusive. That she was pressured into financial agreements she didn't understand. Said she was manipulated." I waited. We looked into it. Surveillance footage. Paper trail. Financials. And, well, a short laugh, humorless. "You're clean. Too clean. Too clean." You documented everything. The timelines, the approvals, the accounts. She wasn't trapped. She just never read the fine print. He paused. She has nowhere left to run, he said. Our attorneys have her on record contradicting her own timeline. Ryan's confirmed your version of events. He turned on her within 20 minutes of our legal team getting involved. Said she convinced him to use the company card. Blamed her for everything. I said nothing. Just listened to the sound of distant fireworks going off somewhere in the neighborhood, the kind that feel premature, like people celebrating a new year without realizing how little they've earned it. She might try one more visit, Crawford said. I'd suggest preparing for that. We won't be pursuing charges yet, but we are freezing her ability to work with any of our subsidiaries or clients. Another beat of silence. Truth is, Mr. Whitmore, you played this cleaner than most of our internal counsel. Respect. I ended the call with a single word, understood. Then I stood, walked over to the sideboard, opened the smart lock app on my phone. Her profile still showed as limited access, a setting I left on for exactly this moment, to see whether she'd attempt another entry. She had. Twice. Early that morning. Both denied. I clicked the icon. Removed her access permanently. No more pings. No more warnings. No more thresholds crossed. She was out. I turned off the phone entirely. Powered it down. Laid it face down on the table. In the distance, another set of fireworks went off. Larger, brighter. The kind meant to signify hope. Renewal. A beginning. I walked through the house slowly, floorboards creaking like they were exhaling after weeks of holding breath. Past the coat rack, where her scarf used to hang. The stairs where she used to rush down shouting last-minute outfit questions. The hallway mirror where she once paused to apply just one more layer of lipstick before late-night meetings. None of it looked haunted now. Just cleared. I poured myself another cup of coffee, stepped outside onto the porch in slippers and a worn sweater, and breathed in the cold air. There were footprints still faint in the snow from when she stood here screaming just days earlier. Now softened. Melting. Unimportant. And in the silence of the new year, I felt it, that rarest of things. Not forgiveness. Not revenge. Just stillness. No text messages. No threats. No doorbell rings. No last-ditch tears. Because the door didn't need to be answered. It was never going to open again.